You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Buckler, and today my guest in studio is Mr. Lloyd Ernst, CEO and Chief Karaoke Officer for a firm in the Philippines called CloudStaff.
Hello, Wayne.
It's good to have you with me, Lloyd. I'm pleased you're not singing your part today. I noticed your business card. Clearly it's a fun place to work.
Absolutely.
Now, Lloyd, the reason that you're here with us, as you know, most of our listeners are clinicians, and I noticed a story in the media about an extraordinary process, it seems, where you've outsourced your dieting. Now, I should say you're not a small man because we are on radio. You're maybe 185 centimetres or something tall, 6 foot, and my guess is up in the 100 and something or others, 130, 140 kilos?
About 150.
All right. So you're not a small man, and I know we were chatting before, this is not a new phenomenon for you. Dieting's been part of your life for a long time.
That's right, and I've had varying level of successes. And I think one of the interesting things about looking at weight loss is that I can lose weight. I've had successful weight loss, through starvation methods, hard dieting, keeping a razor-sharp focus. I spent some time in Thailand at health spas. And, they work successfully for a while, but then after a while, you start to get involved back with business and, it's a very demanding lifestyle. It's very enjoyable. But then all of a sudden, you're focused on work and the diet, gets off track. And then all of a sudden you're back to where you started from. So one of the things I wanted to look at is at our business, we have we're required by the government to have nurses on staff for our employees. And I thought, well, why don't I actually hire a couple of extra nurses and have them help manage my diet? One of the challenges I have is that your day is completely broken up. You're thrown about with different meetings and there's ups and downs and those sort of things. You end up skipping meals. So what I decided to do was hire 2 additional nurses and get them to control every aspect of my diet.
Now, Lloyd, that sounds extraordinary from the outside of an ordinary Westerner living in Australia, but I think to put a bit of context around this, how many people does your firm employ here?
So we've over 500 here in the Philippines.
So by Australian standards, certainly that puts it in the top few percent by size, and I think for most of the world, that's not a small business. Now, you say you live a busy lifestyle. What is it about your lifestyle that makes it busier than other executives? Do you do a lot of entertaining, or why is it that this is a dietary problem?
The role that I have in the company, which is the CEO/CKO role, it's very much a front-facing role. We have customers coming and visiting every single week. We entertain a lot with staff at the office. We try to maintain a really fun culture, and so entertainment, drink is all part of that particular culture. And it starts off, you start off doing a couple of dinners a week. Then all of a sudden, it's not uncommon for us to have 4 or 5, large functions at the house with staff and customers and potential customers every week. We give out cakes for your anniversary when you started with CloudStaff, and cakes on your birthday, and all those sort of things. So each week, I'm giving out 30 or 40 new cakes, and so the lifestyle starts to the whole process of business engagement really does affect your diet.
I concede the cake point because I do have a sweet tooth. Now, as well as that entertaining role that you've got, I understand that you actually host a lot of guests at your house. Does that impact on what you eat and your dieting process?
Absolutely. We have breakfast with guests, or we have lunch meetings, etc. And I think any businessman, anyone who's is busy in a growing business, experiences this as well. You head down, and even when you're traveling, traveling's also just terrible. And when you go out to restaurants and etc., and everyone wants a couple of bottles of wine and all that sort of stuff. So and I think what's been really interesting with this diet is that it doesn't feel like a diet. The staff prepare every single meal, and they make sure that they're served on a regular basis. And so as a result, you never feel hungry and you never feel like you're on a diet.
Right. Now, you've got 2 nurses who are rostered to be with you through the working hours, I gather.
No. The nurses start 6 a.m. and another one starts at 3 p.m. So we do almost follow the sun.
Right.
They will prepare all of the meals. They prepare they do all the meal planning in conjunction with a dietitian.
Well, I was going to ask about dietitians and GPs because I could hear my audience out there going, what about me? This is my specialty. So you have a dietitian involved?
Yes, but I've never met him. I've outsourced that as well. When we first started the process, the nurses insisted that we go for a checkup and we go to a doctor and we have all the blood work done. And then the GP then sort of said, well, you need to go and see a dietitian. He made a recommendation. And as we left the GP, I said to the nurses, okay, well, you need to go and see the dietitian. And they said, oh, but sir, you need to come as well. I said, no, I've got no interest. You go there, you've got all the facts, you've got all the reports, you talk to him and you work it out with him. And so they came back after speaking to the dietitian with a full meal plan and everything like that all worked out. So they liaise with the dietitian.
Now, do you know, just off the top of your head, how many calories this is? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense of how big or small a food portion
This is 2,000 calories a day, which to me seems huge. I'm used to, sometimes when you go on these crash diets, you're on 1,200 or 1,500 calories a day. And I thought, 2,000, that's terrible. We're not going to have any success. And it's working.
Well, that's, I guess, the key question, isn't it? How long have you been on the diet and what results has it given?
So this is still early stages of this particular part of this experiment. So we're now into month 2 and, we've lost about 7 kilos in probably about 7 weeks.
I'm no dietitian, but that sounds like it's heading the right way, at least from my perspective.
But then you see the shows, the biggest loser, and then you see people losing 7 kilos in a week, and I think everyone establishes that as what is achievable if I focus.
Yeah.
And so this particular part of the diet, it's really about focusing on changing a lot more of the lifestyle. What's been really interesting to me is firstly portion size. All of a sudden, they'll turn up with 60 grams of protein, and you go, "Wow, that's small." And when you think about the restaurant that you might have been out to last week, we've completely sidetracked when it comes to portion control. And unless you have someone physically there weigh every single piece, which is what they do, you just lose that sort of focus.
You're listening to Wayne Buckler on Health Professional Radio. My guest in studio today has been Lloyd Ernst, the CEO and CKO, and if you don't know what that means, you'll have to go back to the beginning to listen, of Cloud Staff, a labour hire firm, I guess you'd call it, in the Philippines. Lloyd has outsourced his diet, and we're just discussing now some of the learnings to come from that, and the first one is that a 60-gram piece of chicken is a lot smaller than you ever thought it was. What are the other learnings that have come out of this for you?
The other learning is having smaller meals and having them throughout the day. And I know you all hear about it, but you never really get a chance to implement that. And so what happens with the nurses is they automatically bring the meals to me, whether I'm at a meeting and I'm at a desk. And what I also do is I'll take, we do the classic 6 meals a day, three large meals, and then 3 smaller snacks in between. What I get them to do is actually divide those even further. So, for breakfast, I'll actually take the breakfast and divide that probably into 2 portions. The snacks, again, get divided up as well. And so they end up bringing you what was almost just individual mouthfuls or a quarter of a piece of sandwich or something like that. But what it does, it just smooths out this whole eating process. And you never, ever feel hungry. I've never, in the last, 7 weeks, I've never woken up hungry in the morning. It's just amazing. And it's something completely different because when you're involved in work, you're in a meeting, you'll skip a meal and you'll sort of work on through. Then all of a sudden, you have cravings for different things and I'm just not experiencing that.
Now, Lloyd, one of the things that other guests have told me about when we've been talking about dieting has been fluctuating energy levels, that the after lunch slump becomes a real afternoon slump. How have you gone with those?
None. It's amazing. And this is the bit where it really doesn't feel like a diet. The energy levels are consistent all the way through the day. You always feel like, what's next, what next? It's, you always have energy and there's just no slumps. And, so it's just quite amazing.
It does sound like a success story waiting to come to fruition. Is this a lifestyle change for you?
what's been interesting is the cravings have gone. I used to be a bit of a sweet tooth junkie. The chocolate cakes are fantastic, the cupcakes are great. There's no desire for them at the moment. And I think because you're not getting hungry, there's not that desire to go and get something sickly sweet. Even when I go out now to a restaurant, if people are ordering dessert, I have just no desire to order a sickly sweet dessert.
This is Health Professional Radio. You're listening to Wayne Buckler with my guest in studio, Lloyd Ernst from CloudStaff Inc. in the Philippines. Lloyd, it does sound like a success story. I am just a little sorry that we don't have in the green room a guest to follow you who is a chef or a pastry cook or something, because I love the contrast on air, but unfortunately it's not anything as interesting as that. So you see this as a lifestyle change for you. I think the things that I've heard you say is that the education has been very important. The maintenance of your business lifestyle while you're dieting has been very important. And I note the use of your professionals to be able to outsource some of that to other people whose primary responsibility is to get compliance from you. It seems to me that compliance is one of the issues in diet management that is a constant problem for professionals. Do you get a sense that your nursing staff are in fact primarily there to keep an eye on you and nag and persist and get compliance with the diet?
I don't think so. There's no real nagging. What they do, however, is they just make sure everything happens. They bring the meals automatically. Even if I haven't asked for them, they'll put them there.
So doing the right thing becomes the path of least resistance.
Absolutely, and it's just happens automatically. And as I said, you'll be at a meeting and you'll skip a meal and stuff like that. With this, you just don't. And it's not like they're nagging, and it doesn't feel like you're on a diet. That's the thing that just blows me away.
Well, outsourcing your diet seems to be something that may in fact work. We'll have to have you back, Lloyd. We'll need to talk to you again in a few weeks and see how the weight loss is going. But thank you this morning for being our guest on Health Professional Radio. A transcript of this story will be available on our website along with the sound archive. And if you find us in Google, you're welcome to go back and find those at any time in the future. Lloyd, thank you for your time. It's been my pleasure to have you on the air.
Thank you, Wayne.